If you're a rock or folk player and you'd like to get into jazz, then I hope this study is going to have some information for you that you can put to use pretty easily. Jazz players don't think of chords individually so much. They think of them as little groups of 2, 3, and 4 chord patterns that are locked together and move around the guitar neck in different places. Well, I'd like to turn you on to this concept because it's one of the cornerstone concepts of jazz. Once you get it, you can do an awful lot with it. But I don't want to use a lot of music theory or jazz lingo to get it across to you. So for the purpose of this study, I'm going to call these locked jazz chord patterns. Now, it's not what jazz players call them when they're out on the gig. They have terminology, jazz terminology they use to describe everything, but we're not going to get into that. I'm not even going to put names on the chords yet, because as soon as I do that, it opens up a lot of questions. You want to know why things are called what they are. You feel like you have to know the names before you can play them. You've got to remember the names. So we're not going to even go there. Just watch where my hands are and see if you can get this concept, this very important concept of how chords are moving together in little blocks, locks that keep moving around the guitar neck. And I think you can put it to use. So here's the one that's used the most. It's made, take the first 2 chords on the fret 5, here's how it's made. 3 chords. I'll go to fret number 6, same 3 chords, locked together. I'll start on fret 4, same 3. Here I'll put it in a bossa nova groove and start up on fret number 8. Same pattern. 2, 3, 4. And so forth. Let me come in a little closer here and show you the fingering. I'll go up to fret number 5 again. Here I'm using this fingering mostly for elucidation so you can see what strings are being played and not played. If you have small hands, this is a good fingering, and I do have small hands. I use this fingering sometimes. I prefer to use this fingering. I just put my hand straight across as a bar, but I'm a fingers player, so I pull the strings. I can avoid this string doing that. Most jazz players play it this way. This finger mutes this string. These 3 are played. That leaves this string open to add a pinky on as a hammer-on or add-on note. The second chord looks like this. So these fingers stay the same from this fingering. Go down to this. These ones are not being played, just the 4 middle ones. Drop back 2 frets. Make this chord. Got the 2 outside strings, these 2 strings. This one's not being played, muted by this finger. Bottom's not being played. Now if you'd like to improvise over this chord, if you want to build a major scale using this as the beginning note. So it goes over all of the chords. Here's the first chord. Second chord, same scale. And the third chord. You can just improvise. On to the next pattern. The next very valuable pattern, a very easy one to learn because it's exactly like the 3 chord major pattern, but we just don't play the last chord. Easy, huh? Here's how it sounds. We take the first 2 chords, start on fret 5 here, and don't play the 3rd one. Go to the next spot anywhere. Don't play the 3rd one. So what are we doing? We're creating a tension. A tension, you might not think of it that way, but it is. It wants to go, wants to resolve is the word, to this 3rd chord, but we're not doing it. So we're up in the air with the tension, we go somewhere else, move the tension again to the next spot. Now we'll bring it down and resolve it finally with a third chord. Now we haven't looked at any of the names right away because then you'll start individualizing them and you can go muy blahooey in your mind trying to figure out what chord goes with what chord. What I'm trying to get across here is this concept, the larger concept of moving the chords in blocks, in locked patterns. We've got these two things working, the 2-chord pattern and the 3-chord pattern. So before we get to names, just try to move them around together, put them together in any fashion you want. Don't even think about it. You don't know the names of the chords yet. You know, maybe, or don't think about it. But just pick a spot, make the chord, make a 2-chord pattern, say. Go to another spot, doesn't matter where. Wherever you go, it's going to blend from where you just came from. It's the beauty of these patterns. You can't be combined in a way that doesn't sound good. Whether you can put a 2-chord pattern or a 3-chord pattern, they're always going to sound blending. So you can have a lot of fun with this and go a long way. You can actually sound like you're playing jazz without having any idea what the heck you're doing. You can write songs and any way you want by combining these. You'll have kind of a jazz sound to your songs for sure. Depends what kind of tempo you're working with, and etc. Here's something fun about having the bass note in the chord like we do. It's the lowest note, so in a way you can be playing the bass and the chord pattern all in one. Because the bass note, let's go to the 5th fret for example, here's the bass note, the chord is here. So you can go back and forth just like you have a bass player. Your bass player is this finger, and you can hear that bass note down there. So you're creating a bass. You can go to the next chord. You're playing bass and rhythm with these 3 fingers. Well, you can do it with a pick too, but you can hear that bass note ringing out. So you can hear what we call root movement, how the root is moving. And you hear this too when you're listening to music. You hear the bass player playing, whether you realize it or not, but the bass player is leading you around, and we can isolate him and call his role root movement. So you can establish root movement with all of these chords. If you concentrate on the bass, you don't have to single it out like I'm doing there, but you can hear the thing on the bottom of the chord. There's a low note in there. Now,